Why the rich ignore traditional advice. For most people, the formula for success sounds simple. Go to school, work hard, get a stable job, save money, retire someday. And yet, millions of people follow that exact path for decades only to realize they're still financially trapped, exhausted, and replaceable. Meanwhile, another group of people seems to operate by completely different rules. The wealthy. They invest while others save. They buy assets while others collect paychecks. They value ownership more than obedience. And most importantly, they ignore advice the average person treats like unquestionable truth. So the question is uncomfortable but necessary. What if traditional advice was never designed to create freedom in the first place? Tonight, we're going to look at the psychology, systems, and hidden incentives behind why many wealthy people think differently from everyone else. And if you're interested in the kinds of conversations most people avoid because they're too uncomfortable, too real, or too dangerous to question publicly, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone still following rules that were never designed to make them powerful. In 1913, one of the most important financial events in modern history happened quietly behind closed doors in the United States. Most ordinary people barely understood it at the time. Many still don't. That year, the Federal Reserve was created, permanently changing the relationship between money, debt, banks, and the average worker. From that moment forward, modern economies became increasingly dependent on credit, inflation, and financial systems most people were never properly taught to understand. And that's where the story begins. Because wealthy people study systems, average people are taught to study survival. Think about the advice most children hear growing up. Get good grades, find a safe job, work hard, save your money. At first, it sounds responsible, logical even. But the wealthy often raise their children differently, not necessarily because they're smarter, because they understand how money actually behaves. Robert Kiyosaki popularized this idea years ago in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when he described the difference between working for money and making money work for you. And whether people agree with all of his ideas or not, one uncomfortable truth remains. The rich rarely rely on salaries alone. Why? Because salaries are predictable, and predictable income is usually the slowest form of wealth creation. A person earning $80,000 a year through labor is trading time for money constantly. The moment they stop working, the income usually stops too, but assets behave differently. Real estate, businesses, stocks, intellectual property, ownership creates leverage, and leverage changes everything. This is one reason wealthy individuals often ignore traditional financial advice centered entirely around saving money. They know inflation quietly reduces purchasing power over time. Money sitting still often loses value while assets continue appreciating. That's why many wealthy people focus less on saving every dollar and more on acquiring systems that generate cash flow. But here's where things become psychologically interesting. Most people are not taught to think like owners. They're trained to think like employees. Schools were originally designed during industrial expansion periods when economies needed disciplined workers. People who followed instructions, arrived on time, obeyed authority, and performed repetitive tasks efficiently. Industrial revolution, and to be fair, society genuinely needed that structure at the time. Factories needed workers, corporations needed stability, governments needed order. But the world changed faster than the educational model did. Technology created leverage never seen before in history. One individual with a laptop can now build businesses, audiences, software, investments, or intellectual property capable of generating income globally. Meanwhile, millions of people still operate under rules built for a completely different economic era. That's why wealthy individuals often sound strange when they speak about money. They don't always prioritize job security, they prioritize opportunity. They don't fear calculated risk the same way average people do because they understand wealth is usually created through asymmetry, small strategic risks with potentially massive upside. And psychologically, this separates wealthy thinking from traditional thinking more than almost anything else. The average person seeks certainty, the wealthy often seek leverage. There's a huge difference. A stable paycheck feels emotionally safe because predictability reduces fear. But the wealthy understand something uncomfortable. Safety can quietly become dependency. A person completely dependent on one employer, one salary, or one institution becomes vulnerable the moment that system changes. That's why many wealthy individuals diversify aggressively. Multiple investments, multiple income streams, multiple assets, not because they're greedy, because they understand control matters. And throughout history, the people with the most control were rarely the hardest workers physically. They were usually the people who owned systems other people depended on. Railroads, banks, media companies, technology platforms, attention itself. And once you begin noticing that pattern, traditional advice starts sounding very different. The richest people in the world rarely talk about money the way ordinary people do. That alone should tell you something. Most average financial conversations revolve around budgeting harder, cutting expenses, or saving small percentages of income over long periods of time. And while discipline absolutely matters, wealthy individuals often focus on a completely different question. How do I increase leverage? Because they understand a dangerous truth about modern economics. There's a limit to how much a person can earn through labor alone, but ownership scales. A worker can only work so many hours in a day. A business, an investment portfolio, a piece of software, or intellectual property can generate value continuously without direct physical effort every second. That's why the wealthy become obsessed with assets. Not appearances, not status symbols, assets. And the difference between those two things destroys more people financially than they realize. A luxury car might look rich. Owning systems that produce income quietly is wealth. That's why many wealthy people live far more strategically than social media suggests. Public displays of luxury often distract attention from the real game happening underneath. Ownership, equity, influence, tax structures, and long-term positioning, because the truly wealthy think in decades. Most people think in paychecks. Warren Buffett once said, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." Warren Buffett, and whether someone fully agrees with that philosophy or not, it explains why the rich often ignore traditional financial advice designed primarily around employment stability. They understand wealth is usually built through multiplication, not just preservation. But there's another layer to this most people never talk about: psychology. The average person is conditioned to avoid failure at almost any cost. School systems punish mistakes early. Corporate structures reward compliance and predictability. Society praises safety constantly. But wealth creation often requires temporary uncertainty, not recklessness. Calculated uncertainty, starting businesses, investing during fear, taking opportunities before they feel emotionally comfortable, and psychologically, most people never develop tolerance for that discomfort. That's why many stay trapped in cycles they secretly hate, not because they lack intelligence, because fear feels safer than change. Meanwhile, wealthy individuals often train themselves to think differently about risk. They know losing money temporarily is painful, but remaining financially dependent forever can be even more dangerous. And once you understand that mindset, you begin seeing why traditional advice doesn't always create freedom. It creates stability. There's a difference. Stability keeps systems functioning. Freedom creates independence. The wealthy prioritize the second one relentlessly. That's why they value networks, ownership, influence, information, and leverage so aggressively. They know money itself is only one layer of power. Access matters, relationships matter, control matters, and perhaps the most uncomfortable realization of all is this: many financial rules taught to ordinary people are not necessarily designed to create wealth. They're designed to create reliable participants inside existing systems. Reliable workers, reliable consumers, reliable borrowers, reliable taxpayers. And the moment people begin questioning those systems deeply, their entire relationship with money starts changing. They stop chasing appearances, they start studying incentives, they stop asking, "How do I work harder?" and start asking, "What do wealthy people understand that most people don't?" That question alone can alter the direction of someone's life completely. Because once you realize money is deeply psychological, you stop viewing wealth as luck alone. You start seeing patterns, systems, behavior, power. And if these kinds of conversations make you think differently about money, influence, and the hidden rules shaping modern life, stay connected to this channel. The deeper you look into these systems, the more the world starts revealing how it actually works. Until next time, think carefully about who taught you the rules you still live by today.